All right, Matt. Well, I'm back
Welcome back.
from, yeah, thanks. Back from vacation. Feeling, I guess I'm not rested, have the jet lag right now, but pretty rejuvenated, uh, ready to get back to, it's always hard to get back to reality after a trip, but, yeah, it was pretty good overall. Pretty cold in Japan, but overall pretty fun. Always a good time in Japan. Can't, you know.
You're gonna have to lose all your food weight from Japan.
I didn't really gain any weight, but I think I just lost muscle and gained fat. So I didn't like the number didn't change, but I didn't really work out, obviously. Was walking a lot, but I wasn't lifting weights or anything. So I gotta build my muscle back. It's always fun after a trip. But a lot of stuff happened when I was out. College football,
Yeah.
there are some big NFL games, and the big Juan Soto news dropped. So we'll get to all of that here shortly. Um, and also I missed the our Hasman's game. I guess it didn't work out. I don't know how that went,
It
but
was
um,
okay. It was close.
okay, yeah. Well, got next summer, I guess. So give everyone a chance to go. Well, you have AJA, so you have fun with that. But I'm gonna be resting my body, I guess. I don't know. Like make sure I can play with injury free as a in my mid 20s. Like I should be injury free. So anyway, whatever.
Well, I'm not injury free, and half
Yeah,
the
a
team
lot of us
is
are
not
not.
injury free, so
Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully we're just like we're too young to be getting injured like this, like realistically. But anyway, yeah, let's get into some football talk, Matt. So um Cowboys, Bengals Monday night just wrapped up a few hours ago. Um I guess unfortunately, are you guys officially dead yet? Like you have 8 losses now, right? So you're
mathematically we're
five and
not
eight.
officially
You're
dead,
still
but I think we're cooked. We're
Yeah,
cooked.
it's gonna be tough with the NFC North, I think. With Green Bay, Minnesota, and Detroit, all what are they? All they're all 9-win teams, I think, at the minimum. So
Yeah.
that's essentially it's gonna take an epic collapse by Green Bay at this point because Minnesota like already has 11 wins. So I know they haven't clinched yet, but they
Well,
pretty
it's
much clinched a playoff spot.
they
Um,
have to catch Washington. That was the team to target
oh
because they're
yeah,
the
yeah, sorry, there's
seventh.
three. Yeah.
But what now
So
with the loss, they're 3 games back with how many games we got? 4 games to
four
play.
four
So
games to go.
that's tough.
Yeah, it's gonna have to be an epic collapse by Washington. But I mean, I guess I've seen crazier. But
It
just a
was a good
really
run.
it
It was a
was a
good
good
run.
run. I mean, the game essentially it was a good game. Uh, back and forth. Thought the defense played pretty well considering for most of the game. Um, I mean, you lose Overshown, the big loss, but really it
Yeah.
comes down to one play. Let's be real. Um, Block punt late in the game that I thought, oh my gosh, is that like the miracle the Cowboys needed to give them even more life and maybe, just maybe, a Cooper Rush miracle run, kind of similar to like a Nick Foles thing when he went on his playoff run. And I'm watching the play and I'm like, there's a lot of Cowboys around the ball right now. Like, I wonder what's going on here. Then I see it tip off one of them, bounce right into one of the Cincinnati, players' hands, and I'm just like, what? Like, what are we doing, guys? Obviously that's from my perspective. I'm sure you're even more devastated because, like you said, that essentially, it essentially cost the Cowboys the game, gave the Bengals new life late in the fourth. they find Jamar one on. This is I mean, I'm sure you'll get to it, but one on one with not Trevon Diggs, your best corner, and he burns the DB to essentially win the game. So yeah, tough way to lose. Um, but also just a tough way to essentially have your season over. 1-6, you're going to finish, or I mean, currently 1-6 at home, Matt. That's a tough look for the Cowboys. At least you guys beat the Giants on Thanksgiving, I guess. But yeah, just not has been a disaster of a season, I think, for Cowboys fans now. Um, but yeah, man, I don't know. How are you feeling?
Well, shocked, but because they're so bad, it's not completely devastating. But the game itself, it was going, I guess, okay to the sense where, you hold the Bengals to 17 points through three quarters, 20 really through, what, the, really the whole game. You're holding them to 20 up to until 2 minutes left in the game. And with the way that offense was going coming into this season, with T. Higgins coming back, they've kind of, exploded a little bit. It was the defense that has been letting them down, really this entire season, giving up a lot of points. I think like 28 points a game. So that was the area that we could expose theoretically. And it started off, we were moving the ball. And then Cooper Rush, my guy, I mean, he threw an interception, pretty bad one, in the red zone. And then that kind of just put us in a little bit of a stall, a little bit. The offense kind of hit a wall a little bit. CD was hot early, but kind of got quiet late in the game. I mean, outside of CD, I mean, Rico Dowdle, I think he's established himself as the RB1, at least for this season. I don't know about next season because, there's the Ashton Genty rumors and, who are they going to draft there. So, but at least for this season, I think Rico Dowdle has established himself as the RB1 and he's earned it. I mean, he's clearly been the guy. And that's really the run game has been taking off ever since we've kind of gave him the keys to the run game. It's Rico, you're in there. If you need a break, then you can come out. It's not, oh yeah, you play one series and then Zeke comes in for the second series. Like, nah, if you need a break, Rico, then you come out. But until that, you stay in as long as you can. Um, but that was really the bright sides. Defensively was okay, I thought. I think we got a couple sacks. Parsons was okay. I mean, the numbers don't show, but he was drawing a lot of penalties. And that doesn't always show up in the box score, I think. But he didn't have that prolific play or a prolific game, but his presence was felt. I mean, he was definitely causing problems for the Bengals offensive line. And, I thought they held up okay. I mean, Jamar Chase is he's one of two, I guess, with him and Jefferson. You could pick whichever one you want right now, but he's just a beast. And we had Trayvon Diggs and Deron Bland back for the first time since early last season. So the INT bros were in full effect and nobody could guard him. And really, there's no shame in that. I just think, in certain situations, you kind of want to slide coverage, send help to that side. But sometimes the guys are just too good and you just got to tip your hat to Burrow and Chase. That connection is pretty unmatched right now. But enough of this wasting of this time. Really, the ending is what needs to be talked about. The punt. So, from my perspective, the punt was blocked, and for maybe about 5 seconds, maybe less, I was like, oh my God, this is actually perfect because we got a short field. In theory, we're across the 50. So we're in Brandon Aubrey's field goal range at worst case scenario. So it's like, oh, this is perfect. Cooper Rush is going to have a game winning drive by handing off the ball 3 times, possibly. Aubrey's going to kick a field goal and we win the game. And then I'm going to come on the pod. I can show my picture of Cooper Rush again, gloat to you, maybe post on the Instagram again. And then 5 seconds later, Amani Ojawari has some brilliant idea to, I guess, return the the blocked punt. And then from there, instantly I knew, oh, that's a live ball. Uh-oh, that's Cincinnati's ball. And we just gave them a short field. And 3 plays later, I kind of was expecting something like that. In reality, though, that was actually a good thing that Chase scored because I thought Cincinnati would just run out the clock, kick a game-winning field goal with no time left. But by Deron Bland getting cooked by Chase, it actually gave the Cowboys at least a shot to tie the game with three
Oh, was it
timeouts.
on Deron Bland too?
It was Deron Bland, yeah.
Dang. I just saw like I was even thinking it in my head before that play because I was watching it. I was playing against T. Higgins in a couple other leagues, and if T. Higgins got like one more catch, I would have lost. So I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm just looking for T.
That's
Higgins and
funny.
I see him at the top of the screen against Diggs, and I'm like, wait, Diggs is on T? And I look down to the bottom, I'm like, wait, is that Jamar one-on-one off coverage on I didn't know who it was, but I was like, it's not Diggs. Sure enough, I see Joe look that way. I'm like, oh, okay, I survived.
See, I was the opposite because Mark has Jamar Chase and we're playing for the 1 seed. And that catch literally gave him the 1 seed in our league. So I was like, gosh. I was more mad that they scored the touchdown with Chase than the Cowboys actually giving up the lead at that point. It's fantasy, man. Fantasy kills you in these late week 14 games, man.
Mm-hmm.
But like the play itself, it was I don't think I've ever seen that before in my lifetime, at least, with that kind of special teams play. But I go back to when we played Washington. Remember they kicked the onside kick and Wanye Thomas, we recovered the onside kick and he runs it back for a touchdown. It's kind of the same concept. It's like what do you need to do that for? Like if you know football, you shouldn't even be near the ball or even trying to grab it. Because if it passes the line of scrimmage, it's like basically a punt. So once you touch the ball, it's a live ball. If you don't touch the ball, it's your ball wherever that ball lands or where it stops rolling.
Mm-hmm.
So where you are, especially where you are with the game situation, where you are on the field, you gotta know who's on the other side. When you have Brandon Aubrey on your team, that is the Steph Curry of kickers right now. You cross midfield, you have a chance to score regardless. And where that ball was going to stop and land, it was maybe right at midfield, maybe a little bit on the Cincinnati side. So in reality, you're in field goal range. All you have to do is maybe you could just get a first down, make Cincinnati burn their timeouts, get a first down, set up Aubrey for where he wants the ball, and walk out of there 6-7, 2 games back, and you have to play Washington late in the season. That's when it would have got interesting. Because if you're 2 games back and you know you have Washington the last game of the season at home, you're thinking, okay, I got these next 2 games. We just got to get one. We just got to get one. Hopefully one of those 2 games, Washington loses. And that's how we get them. And then we beat them the last game of the season. You get into the playoffs. That was the script. But now it's gone. But I just go back to that's everything. It's coaching that's on the players. And I think it's more on coaching on that one. Because for time and time again, we see the Cowboys doing stupid things on special teams. And it showed a couple weeks ago, even in a win. So John Fossil, I mean, I saw that he was kind of screaming and shouting, like, get away, get away. But clearly 10 guys got the message. One of them didn't. So I don't blame him too. I feel bad for him because Ojawari, I can't even pronounce his name. He was called up from the practice squad, I think, today. So kind of a
That's
tough
tough.
situation to be
That's a
put in.
tough
I mean,
spot.
he's trying to make a play. I understand, but I don't know. I think there's no excuse for that. If you know the game of football, you know the rules, you don't even put yourself in that situation. Just get away from the football. And ultimately, that kind of just put a fork in our season. So I don't know. I think going forward, if I'm the Cowboys, honestly, I'll start Trey Lance. Just why not? It doesn't hurt. If we lose, we lose. I don't think we're going to the playoffs anymore. Cooper Rush, he's proven he's a backup. He's a winner. But yeah, I'll be honest, he didn't play that well. I thought he missed some throws that he should have hit given his standard and his statue. But, I think now it's time that we're really kind of out of it. Let's see what Trey Lance has. It doesn't hurt. We're not going anywhere. So kind of a sad way to close out these last, 4 games of the season. So it's tough, but at least I've come to accept it early that it's over. It's over for me.
Heartbreak in
This year.
December instead of January, I guess, for Cowboys
I
fans.
mean, I guess that's better in a sense for my mental health, but
Yeah,
it still sucks because this team was supposed to compete this year, and
it
even with Dak, we weren't great. Like we couldn't stop a lick on defense sometimes. So I just want this season to be over. Honestly, I'm excited for the draft, and that's all those loser teams that it's like, oh, the draft is the best part of the season. But in reality, that's what I'm looking forward to right now.
mhm.
Let's try to get a top 10 pick.
And that's why you have Trey Lance. All aboard the tank train, the
Yep,
tank
he
engine.
just leave him in there, man. Let him throw 5 picks every single game if he has to. Just don't
Well,
get CD hurt or Micah Parsons hurt because the
no
overshown
injuries.
that injury looked bad, and I'm kind of worried because he's going to be a building block for this team on defense, and I really don't want to see him get another season-ending injury, like an ACL that he suffered in his rookie season. So just praying for health, man. I mean, I think Cooper Beebe had a concussion, so he got knocked out. So it's like we're dropping like flies right now, and CD has a bum shoulder that he's just playing through. So we are struggling right now just to stay on the field. So hopefully we can get through these last 4 games healthy.
I hope so. Really would have taken a miracle, especially with the Rams winning. You still
No, but I
have
really think if they
a
won
ton of
today, they
teams
had
in
a
front of
shot,
them.
a
They had a
glimmer of
shot.
hope.
They had a shot. I still think the Rams are gonna be kind of tough, especially with how they looked this past week. But you're right. It's the NFL. Weird things happen. We see it all the time. You never know. You probably were still in it, but now I know it's not mathematically over,
Yeah,
but it feels over, like you were
yeah.
saying.
You got 3 games back with 4 to play. That's tough. That's tough. In a sense, the Commanders have to lose out. So I don't think that's going to happen
And the
with their
Well, you
with their
need all the
schedule
teams in
too.
front to lose out to, which is like,
Well, what is the
man.
Rams? Rams aren't. They don't have.
Well,
What
they're
they have
seven and
7 wins.
six, yeah,
Yeah. So, but they have to
but you
catch the
still got
Commanders still.
Atlanta, Arizona, the Niners. They all have 6 wins too,
Yeah.
so it would have been tough either way. But like you said, no stress now watching
No
football at least.
stress. Yeah. I'll turn my attention to the Oregon Ducks, I guess.
That's fair. That's a good thing, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But I did manage to at least catch the highlights of the Miami and New York Jets game. I was a little scared when I woke up, and the first thing as I'm waking up, I check my phone. Like I see overtime. I'm like, oh no. Then I see that we won. Like, okay, thank goodness. But I'm like, okay, we have to go to overtime against the abysmal, well, they're abysmal this year, the abysmal New York Jets that have 3 wins and we're at home. So I'm like, okay, let I have the sigh of relief. We won. Okay, let's go take a dive in and see what happened. So looking just, initial takes throughout the game, I think good to see Tyreek and Jalen kind of get back to their old ways. I think Jalen was like essentially at 100. Tyreek went over 100 with a touchdown. I think they had like 18 or 19 total catches combined. So good to see them kind of get back on track in that sense. John Smith obviously has the big overtime and the walk-off touchdown. Obviously we've known and we've seen what he can do this past month, essentially getting the ball in his hands and letting him create. And then obviously Tua, you know, back to his, I don't even want to say Alabama ways, but I think this past month or even since he's been back, Matt, um, really looks sharp, I think, for the most part. You can argue, oh, well, he's not playing anyone and this and that, but even the Buffalo game, the Arizona game, yeah, the Green Bay game wasn't great, but I wouldn't put that loss on him while he did, miss some pretty big throws in key times. It's not like he had the big pick or the big turnover or big mistake or anything like that. Just think we couldn't stop Jordan Love and that offense, but I'll take the win, obviously. Offensively, now I can say I'm really not concerned with the passing game at least. The run game though has been so bad. Another game we finished with 44 total rushing yards. Devon Achan, he gets 14 carries for 24 yards. That's not even 2 yards a carry. So I don't know what's been going on. We lose Teron Armstead, he goes down, but just the run game has just not been very good this past 5 games, 6 games now. And I think that's a little bit concerning because we're essentially throwing it all on Tua. He's been playing like an MVP the past 4 weeks, 5 weeks essentially, but I don't know if that's gonna be enough, honestly, when it gets later in the season. And it's not just everyone likes to say, oh, Miami can't play in the cold, but any team that when it's snowing and blizzarding, it's gonna be harder to throw the ball, period. You're gonna have to have some kind of run game to succeed in the outdoor conditions, whether you're in Pittsburgh, in Kansas City, in Baltimore, wherever you're gonna end up playing some of these AFC contenders if we make the playoffs, by the way. And that's still a long shot in itself. But overall, I thought offensively, passing game wise, I liked it. I think it was good to see Tua when they went down in that fourth quarter with under a minute to go. He's able to, put together a drive at least to get them within field goal range, no timeouts. That's the stuff that you want to see out of your franchise guy if you're a Miami Dolphins fan. And, shout out to Jason Sanders kicking a 50-plus yarder to tie the game. Huge kick. You could tell like they kind of got some momentum back going again. And like whenever it gets to overtime, you just pray, right? You get that first crack at it. And luckily, literally the coin flipped our way this time. We got the ball first. Um, and John Smith takes over 2 straight screen passes. He gashes them for first downs. Then Tua, hits another conversion. I think it was to Waddle. And then finally the icing on the cake touchdown to Jonum. So good final drive to end it. Sometimes you got to win ugly. Definitely was a fairly ugly win, but offensively, I think they got the job done. I think they're averaging like 28 points since Tua came back too. I think he only has 1 pick in that span, not really putting the ball on the ground like he was earlier in the year with the drop passes or, getting hit and fumbling. So good to see he's been cleaning that stuff up as well. Offensively, I think they're adapting, but the run game has to get going. Now on the defensive end, now on the defensive end, And I don't know what happened because a couple weeks ago we played the Rams on, prime time and essentially they held the Rams without a touchdown in that one. And I'm thinking, okay, this is a win that's gonna that brought us back from the depth of being eliminated from the playoffs. Because if they lost that game, playoffs are essentially out of the picture. But they played a good game. I'm like, okay, defense, we're ready to go now. And then even against the Raiders and the Patriots, it's like wasn't dominating performances. It was good ball, but that's still games you expect to be completely, dominating against the Raiders and the Patriots, who are essentially two of the bottom teams in the AFC. And then we come to the Packers game out there in the cold. I think because I didn't get a chance to talk about that Packers game, Matt, on Thanksgiving,
I've
but
never seen you so mad watching a football game.
I mean, such a, such a big, game for us. 20 missed tackles, I think I saw. Like, how does that happen? I 20 missed tackles by our defense. Josh Jacobs is shaking guys. Receivers are like, I'm sorry, but I've been losing my mind at Javon Holland and Jordan Poyer this year. Like, I like Javon Holland. It's so crazy. I'm still a fan of Javon Holland, but when I've been seeing some of these breakdowns on Twitter and I'm just puzzling some of the angles, poor decisions. He dropped a pick, I think, too, in this Jets game, in the end zone. He had a chance, dropped the pick. Like, just hasn't been that impactful player that we were expecting him to take that another leap in his career. It's been a little bit disappointing. Jordan Poyer has been a letdown as well, at the safety position. So I don't know what's been going on, Matt, but yeah, the defense just hasn't looked great, and I think Rodgers hadn't thrown for 300 yards, and I don't, I forget what the stat was, but it was like almost 2 years or something. Um, and of course, who did he
He
throw for
broke
300
it.
yards against? Against the Dolphins. Garrett Wilson was cooking. Devontae Adams was cooking. Like the secondary, I'm concerned about. Up front, they're okay. Like with Zach Sealer, Chop Robinson, Calais Campbell, and Ogba, that's formidable. It's not a bottom tier defensive line by any means, but they need help. Like we needed a healthy Bradley Chubb. Like I just keep imagining, if we had Bradley or Jalen Phillips, I can't even imagine, the kind of stuff we would be getting out of this unit. But it is what it is at this point. But the secondary has just been so concerning. It has been a lot of injuries though. Like Jalen Ramsey's been out there the whole year, but Kader Kohou's been in and out of the lineup. Kendall Fuller, who we signed from, I think it was Washington, has been in and out as well. So we've been having to rely on, young guys like Cam Smith, Storm Duck, and they kind of got exposed the past couple weeks, including that Packers game, right? But yeah, just that was a tough loss too, Matt. Um, so the defense, I am concerned, especially with the two games we have coming up now, because we're still in it. Like, unfortunately for you, you're pretty much out of it. Dolphins still have a slim chance that's somewhat reasonable with 4 games left to go. But the next two games are huge. I mean, essentially have to be treated as playoff games at the Texans, who, let's be honest, CJ is not has weirdly somehow regressed from last year. I'm not sure what has happened with him and his game, but it seems like more and more of the games that I watch, he's just missing throws. I don't know if you're noticing the same thing. Um,
Throws that he hit last year,
Throws
he's
that he hit
missing.
last year, he's missing. It just doesn't look comfortable, and I'm not sure what exactly is going on there. But nevertheless, huge, huge game. I would say, like, if the Dolphins lose one of these games the rest of the way, I'm gonna bank on them being out because of how Denver's looking. I mean, they have 8 wins, the Chargers have 8 wins, and Baltimore has 8 wins. So we're 2 games back. I really think even if we get to 10 wins, there's a chance that they don't get in. So we're gonna need help and we're gonna have to be perfect the rest of the way. The Texans, I think they're hungry for a win. Um, they haven't been playing their best ball. They just barely beat Jacksonville and then they took a weird loss to the Titans. Like they haven't been playing great ball. So I think they're excited to get back and like get going again at home too. So this is gonna be a huge game. Um, I'll be stressing it out for sure, but I think it's a winnable game for Miami. You know,
Hey, at least it's in a dome. No
it
matter
is in
worry
the
about the
dome.
weather.
Yeah, it is in the dome, and but I think the run they have to figure something out with the run game because if with the
Mixing.
Houston's pass rushers, um, yeah, I think D'Amico Ryan like he's just too good of a defensive coach to allow Jalen or Tyreek or even John, who honestly to carve them up defensively. And then, like you said, yeah, on the flip side, how are we going to stop Joe Mixon? Um, they had a bye week this week, so they had some time off to rest. And if he's going to get healthy, like we need to be able to stop the run because if we don't stop the run, that play action with Nico is going to be deadly. And like I said, I'm not feeling the most confident in my secondary right now, so just gonna have to find a way, honestly, defense to just keep a cap on it. If we can hold them to field goals, I think that's gonna be a win. I think it's gonna be a pretty high scoring game. Honestly, I'm predicting like high 20s. It's a winnable game, but I'm nervous. These next 2 games I'm gonna be nervous about. Like at Houston and then the Niners at home. These are essentially playoff games now. The whole rest of the way, it's a playoff game. You have to treat it as that. Um, yeah, I think it's possible. I'm kind of glad I wasn't here for that Packers game, Matt, because like you said, I was like fuming. I thought
No, you
there were
were.
some
We just never
questionable
talked about it.
penalties. Yeah, there were some oh, not questionable, like a lack of penalties. I think I was sending you clips on Twitter of like they're stepping on Tua after he gets sacked, like on his head. And I'm like, hello, I'm seeing holding. Okay, there's holding in all the time in the NFL. But when it's so blatant, it just like yeah, just really makes like pisses me off. Um, and then like I haven't gotten into it really, but the one drive I thought that really just killed me was when they had second and goal at the one, down 2 scores. It was a 16-point game, but down 2 scores, right? And we run the ball twice, I think, or it was at least once. Oh no, no, sorry. We run the ball once with Devon Achan, our smallest back. We have Mostert ready to go. Jalen Wright, who a lot of Dolphins fans have been asking for. Jeff Wilson. That's literally why we have Jeff Wilson on the roster to be our power back. And we're gonna run Devon Achan power at the one. Like, okay, I don't get it. And then from there, we go pass and can't get it done. And I thought right once I saw that, I was like, okay, well, that's the game because we still had a chance. We still had a chance at it at that point, but just the lack of short yardage success for Mike McDaniel's entirety of his stay in Miami. If he ends up getting the boot, that's going to be the thing that kills him. Like he's been so aggressive, or I mean, he's been so good at creating this offense where Tua's hitting receivers in these windows that aren't there, and it's so hard for the defense to stop. He's so creative with some of these, no look stuff, the shovel passes, side to side action. But when it comes to 4th and 1 or 3rd and 1 at the goal line or whatever it's time, we go fullback dive. Oh, okay, get stuffed. or we go power. But like, can we at least use our guys that like the right personnel? I don't know if there's something that I'm missing philosophy wise. Just doesn't make sense to me why we're running with Devon Achan, who's a great back by the way. But if I'm taking him or Jeff Wilson to get me 1 yard, yeah, give me Jeff Wilson every time. I'm sorry. Um, Even Raheem Mostert had 20 plus touchdowns last year. Do we forget that? You know, he can still lower his shoulder too. Physical runner. Yeah, that was a tough one, but still in position. We're gonna need some help moving forward, Matt. Um, but we'll look ahead for Sunday. Every game now essentially is gonna be like a playoff mode for me, where I'm gonna be stressing, I'm gonna be nervous, and I'll come back and kind of reassess every week from now. But still in it. Huge game though to be able to get to um somehow get back to 500, which is crazy with how this team was looking, but still possible. So just gotta wait for Sunday, I guess. Um, yeah. Okay. Well, why don't we get to some of the other games? There are a couple pretty good games. One of them being the NFC North battle, right? Lions and Packers. You already know it's going to be a good game anytime these two teams play, honestly. But really, it comes down to, I guess you could say coaching. But it's not really. I don't. I really think Matt LaFleur is a good coach. I think Dan Campbell is a good coach. You got to talk about the decision, and it's funny because if I recall, Matt, a couple years ago, it came down to a similar situation. I think it was with Dan Campbell too, right? When we were telling him, yes, you have to be aggressive. Yes, you have to, you
Was
know,
that their playoff game? The Niners
what
one?
was it?
Was it last
It
year?
was that one? Maybe it
I think
was, or
so.
was it last
Yeah,
year?
it was
Okay.
last year.
That's why I remember it so well. You know, we were saying like at a certain time, yes, we love it, be aggressive, but sometimes you just got to take the points. And I mean, Dan Campbell, I think as we've seen and learned now at this point, he doesn't care analytics, whatever. He's going to go with what he believes in. And a minute to go, within field goal range, tie game, in, on 4th and 1, instead of taking the field goal, they go for it. And they get it, but it was almost a disaster because Jared Goff slips, falls down on the handoff. But luckily, you know, Monty's able to get it and they pick up the first down. But I mean, so you know
They're
what?
lucky the college football rules aren't in play because that would have been a turnover on downs.
Yeah. But you really just have to, I think you just have to tip your cap to Dan Campbell because he is going to unapologetically do and believe in his players, even if it's going to cost him certain games. Like, that's just the way that this team rolls. And you just have to respect it. The the Detroit Lions sitting at 12-1. I think if you tell a Lions fan that from 4 years ago, like they might have a heart attack. From winless to 12-1 in what has it been a 3 4 year span essentially, right? Um, like the turnaround of the Detroit Lions is actually truly insane because they're one of the teams that gets talked about like the Cleveland Browns or, you know, the New York Jets or, you know, some of these teams that historically haven't had a lot of success, especially in the recent years. So, got to tip my cap to Dan Campbell. But what did you think of that last decision to go for him, Matt?
Personally, I don't agree with it because it's kind of the same, but it is, I understand it where that's the way that he coaches and he's sticking to his philosophy in a sense. But just me as a, I don't know, I don't want to say like a coach, but as a game situation, I guess, analyst, You put it that way. Kick the field goal. I think there was like 30 something seconds left. I could be wrong. Packers have no timeouts. Think of the worst thing possible. If you get stuffed, you give the ball back to Jordan Love with a chance to win the game. And they need about 20 yards, maybe, to get into comfortable field goal range. Whereas you have a gimme field goal, and all you have to do is you make the kick, you're in field goal range. You just have to stop Jordan Love from basically getting to the 45-yard line. No timeouts. You tackle them once, inbounds, that might be the game because they have no timeouts. The clock will run out. You have one play, it'll go down to 10 seconds maybe. And with that, you can't run up and kick a field goal in 10 seconds unless they get out of bounds. But if you're smart, you're just going to guard the sideline, bait them to throw in the middle, and then you win the game. I mean, I just think that's the smart way to approach it. So I personally, I didn't agree with it. I would have kicked the field goal in that situation. And I think a lot of analysts are like, oh, Dan Campbell, he's the man, like what a great call. But it's like, would you really have the balls if you're a coach to kick that? Like personally, I wouldn't. I would trust my players and my defense to get me the stop. That's my opinion. I'm a defensive guy. I trust my defense to close it out with 30 seconds and no timeouts to stop the other team. You should be able to get that done.
Yeah, I
But
agree. And hey, but I just I don't I wouldn't agree with the decision. Like you said, if I was a coach, I would have done things different. But I have to respect Dan Campbell because
he's
he's
sticking true
gonna
to
be
his identity, so
aggressive.
I respect
And
that part.
yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
Mike
he's not
McDaniel
gonna
got to
change.
take notes. If you have a short yardage play, you put in a David Montgomery or a or a power back, a bruiser.
Yeah, he's not gonna change for anyone. So, oh, excuse me. But that was one game, Matt. Why don't we get to the Bills game? Because that one was also nuts. Oh, hold on.
The fantasy football game of the week.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I think Josh Allen put up a casual 51 points. So, yeah, pretty good, I would say. Let me see. Find the box
Yeah,
score
Puka had a big game. Cardin Williams had a big game.
here. Yeah. Um, the one with this one though, Matt, I think what impressed me the most, honestly, with the Browns being able to kind of put up that many points against the Buffalo defense, like I don't know, that one was a little bit surprising to me, especially with like no turnovers or anything from Buffalo. Um,
Both
by the way,
teams,
Josh
no
Allen,
turnovers.
yeah, Josh Allen, heck of a game. I mean, six total touchdowns. He was the leading rusher as well. Like superhuman performance from him. But I think honestly, what this game came down to, and they talked about it in the broadcast just when I was watching the highlights, right? The clock management at the end, um, where they decided to try to sneak it with Josh, and they don't get it, so they have to burn a timeout. And then they get it on
Cost
the
them the
next
game.
play. But that was a huge timeout, like you said. I think Tom Brady was pointing it out on the broadcast. Like, now they have to go with an onside kick instead of being able to kick it deep, trusting your defense to get one stop with three timeouts, and then you have a shot still, right, with time left, and Josh Allen, who was red hot in that fourth quarter. So I don't want to say it comes. I don't know. I think it's kind of hard, Matt, but assessing that situation, I completely agree. Like you have to be smarter with managing the clock. Um,
I agree.
and I think that's something that we've seen. Like I don't want to say with Sean McDermott, but just there's been like a couple questionable decisions. I think when it comes down to the crunch time. with the Bills and kind of how they handle some late game things. They're still a really well coached team. I still think they're a really good team, and they're one of the top caliber teams in the NFL. One of the true Super Bowl contenders, I think. Um, but yeah, can't be having that in those kind of moments for, a team with high playoff aspirations. So on the flip side though, Matt, this was a huge game for the Rams to stay within the hunt of that last wild card spot. Hurt you in the end, but I mean Matt Stafford, still one of the best when he's healthy, and look what he's able to do when he has his guys out there. When he has Puka, when he has Cooper Kupp, Kyron Williams healthy, like they were, just carving up that Buffalo secondary. By the way, Puka, some of the catches that he makes, like he might be right now the best like contested ball catcher or difficult ball catch. Like I always thought like Cortland Sutton has been up there. In the past it's been like AJ Green, like guys
Julio
that
Jones.
Julio Jones, Mike Evans is still up there,
Oh
right?
yeah,
But
Evans is
some of these
good.
catches like that Puka makes, I'm thinking the one specifically on the sideline where he goes up over a defender, essentially one hands it, brings it into his second hand, and toe taps it. Um, like even the one from last year, I still think one of the most impressive catches when he was in the rain at Baltimore and he goes full extension, no gloves, catch like he's not the best, he's not the fastest guy. He's tough though. He's a tough receiver, runs good routes, but it's his ability to make those kinds of catches to me is that what puts him up there in that upper echelon of wide receivers, right? So I mean he's just a baller, I think. And he's good after the catch too, as we saw kind of on that last touchdown, um, that essentially helped them ice the game, right? So huge game from the Rams, which is so weird because I thought after the Miami game, they'd kind of start to go downhill a little bit, but they look like they're playing some of their best ball offensively right now, and I think they're still kind of in the hunt. They have three division games to go that they'll be interesting to see, but um, on a bigger note for this game, Matt, I still think this helps Josh Allen's MVP case. I know they ended up losing, but where would this Buffalo team be without Josh Allen? Like realistically, I don't know. Three touchdowns
Maybe
on the
four
ground.
win team.
Yeah, three through the air. I know they have Amari Cooper now, but they don't have the big names that a lot of these other teams have offensively. So yeah, like if there's ever a time to say, Josh, please carry us, like this has been the season, I think. So got to tip my cap to Josh Allen. Plus, he's getting married to Haley Steinfeld. So like pretty good.
Right, he's just
It's
winning
been
in
a pretty
life right
good
now. They
year.
got the big
It's been a pretty good
contract.
year. Yeah, contract, engaged, probably on pace to be the MVP, at this rate at least. But no, I think all that he's really looking forward now is that Super Bowl. Um, but he'll have to go through the the black magic Kansas City Chiefs. And I'm just gonna say I left them out of my top five, right? You know, exactly what was happening, I guess, last year with Philly, right? When I was like, hey, Philly has a great record. I don't think they're a good team. I think everyone, this is not, even Chiefs fans can argue that, yeah, they're 12-1, but no one is really scared. I think, like, really, I truly don't think people are as scared of Kansas City this year. The one thing I will say is that they still have Andy Reid and they still have Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce in the playoffs, which is a deadly combo. But like the product that they've put out on the field this year, it's partially due to injuries. They lose Rasheed Rice, they lose Hollywood Brown. Pacheco was out for a bulk of the year. So yeah, they're not the most loaded Kansas City team we've seen. But how many wins has that been now, Matt, where it's come down to a one possession type of game and they're able to scrape through somehow on the other team's blunder, or like this time they get a lucky bounce off of a doink that ends up going through. Go back the week before, Aiden O'Connell drops the ball, like isn't ready for the ball, that essentially loses them the game when they were in field goal range to go up and win the game. Um, Even the Panthers game, like okay, yeah,
They
nothing really
blew the lead
fluky.
too. They're up by
Yeah,
two
nothing.
scores, I think.
Yeah, it wasn't fluky, but to surrender the lead at home. Oh no, sorry, on the road against the Panthers, like shout out to Bryce Young, but still. And then we talk about the Denver game and whatever else you want to talk about. It's just they don't seem to be dominating and winning in the way that we're used to seeing this Chiefs team do. And I think they have a chance to get exposed in the playoffs this year, if one of those bounces don't go their way. They still got the refs though, and I'll always stand by that. I still think some of them calls, okay, but I don't know. I think this team just isn't as scary as they've been the past 2 to 3 years. So we'll see how it plays out. They'll probably end up with the one seed at this point anyway, Matt. Um, but I think they're a beatable team. Uh, you know,
Definitely. They
and
could play Buffalo, I mean, not Buffalo, Baltimore in the divisional, and then obviously Buffalo in the AFC Championship if it goes that far. So I feel like those two teams don't lack any confidence of like, yeah, we're no, we're so scared to go into Arrowhead. Like, I think both of them almost want to go to Arrowhead and take them down, and they got the quarterbacks on the other side. So this could be the year.
I hope it
I
is.
really hope so
I'm
because I don't
sick
want
of
to see a
seeing them.
three-peat.
Me too. I don't want to see that either. I think they need to be humbled just a little bit. But that means next year they're gonna come back with a vengeance. But I'll take it. Whatever. I just don't.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
no, not the
don't want to
three-peat,
see a
man.
three-peat.
Yeah, no three-peat. No three-peat.
Yeah. Well, we'll stay up to date in the NFL as we get into essentially the final 4 weeks or final month of the regular season. Um, Still a lot of playoff races to be decided, so we'll stay updated on that. But playoff races that have been, essentially set in stone now. The first ever college football 12 team playoff is official after championship weekend. Um, can run through some of these games really quick, but Boise State and Ashton Genty take care of business against UNLV. Arizona State takes care of business as well. They end up winning the Big 12. Texas and Georgia, ah, I don't know. Like, I don't want to say Texas are frauds, but they haven't really beaten any. Have they
They
beaten a
haven't beat a
ranked
top
opponent,
25 team
actually?
yet.
Haven't beaten a ranked opponent yet. Georgia, Carson Beck. I'm not a huge Carson Beck guy, but um, they lost him and they were still able to get it done against Texas in the SEC championship game. So tip my cap to them. Dylan Gabriel and the Ducks. As poorly as Dylan, I don't want to say poorly, as much as Dylan has somewhat underachieved throughout the regular season, I think, he could even attest to that. His two biggest games or best games, I thought, have come against Ohio State and
Mm-hmm.
Penn State in the, two big times. So we'll get to that in a little bit. But Oregon, wins the Big Ten and secures the one seed for the CFP. Clemson comes out of nowhere, somehow steals the ACC, it feels like, from SMU, and that was a good game too. Shout out to their freshman kicker, like a 56
Oh,
yarder or
yeah, that
something
was a
to win the
bomb.
game. Hit a bomb. So shout out to him. Uh, and then essentially, yeah, the bracket is now out, so we'll get to that. But any of these games, Matt, I know you wanted to talk about Oregon and Penn State, so we can talk about that one first. But yeah, like I was saying, Dylan hasn't played great. He's a finalist for the Heisman, not gonna win it, but Penn State and Oregon State, when it came, or Penn State and Ohio State, when it came down to it, he plays his two best games. And I think that's exactly what you want to see out of your veteran quarterback. But just take me through your thoughts on his performance and Oregon's performance in the Big Ten championship.
I think for Dylan, um, it was a good. I thought this was his best game. Um, Definitely, I think he was definitely in control. Um, didn't put the ball in harm's way. Um, so I thought everything was going to plan offensively, but the defense was a little suspect, a little shaky. Uh, Penn State, not the greatest offensive team, but to give up 37 points is a little, I don't like I don't know how to feel about that. But I will say this though, my biggest takeaway for Oregon is this was one of those games where you needed Dylan to just ball out, and he did that. They won in a typical in a shootout. It was an old fashioned shootout. A lot of these games that Oregon's been playing, they're blowing out teams. Earlier in the year, they played Wisconsin. It was a kind of defensive battle. But this one, they got the true like shootout, like score after score after score. And they answered the bell. And in the playoffs, I think you're going to have to win in multiple ways. Sometimes you're going to have to win a shootout. Sometimes you're going to have to win a dirty, physical, ugly defensive game. So to get this test, I guess you could say, before the real playoff, very, very encouraging, I think, for the Ducks. I mean, really, Tej Johnson is back, so that opens up this entire offense, I think. Jordan James has been a rock solid back this entire season. The tight ends are playing well. Sadiq is emerging alongside Ferguson. So the pieces are there. I think for the most part, health is on our side. So I think we're good. I think we're ready. But really, I think if we're going to make a run, it's number 8, man. This is his destiny, his Marcus moment. Like I don't know if he'll pass Marcus in terms of GOAT status at Oregon, but you win a national championship. I don't know if you'll win the Heisman, but you win a national championship, you will be among the greats at Oregon with the Marcuses, with the Joey Harringtons, maybe Justin Herbert too. But Dylan Gabriel has his moment. He has a chance, and I think he can do it. I think he can do it. So we'll see in about a month because they have like a month off, which is kind of insane.
Yeah, that'll be like rest is good, but yeah, that is quite some time off to be taken. But you know, with a lot of these games, how they played out, Matt, we can kind of just run through, I think, the predictions, like now that it's official. Um, First of all, surprised, not surprised that they actually left Alabama out.
Ooh, I'm surprised, but I think they made the right decision. Uh, I don't know how you can have a 3-loss team in the playoff. I don't see it. I mean, outside of Clemson, I guess, because they won the conference, so you have to honor that. But
Right.
that large 3-loss team, like you can't do that. And I feel like for SMU, if they didn't play in the conference championship game, they were number 8 going into the week, and somehow that's going to be the reason why they don't make the playoff. Like, I feel like that's not fair for them. So I think they got it right. Um, so I got no complaints. I'm happy SMU got in, and I watched the ending of the game. It was exciting. Um, SMU showed some grit to come back. So I think you have to take that into consideration.
I
And
agree.
with the way Alabama was playing, like, bro, they got killed by Oklahoma. Oklahoma is like 6-6, looking terrible right now.
I think
And
that was the
that
loss.
was, yeah, that was awful.
Yeah, that was to me. Um, I think when looking at this, CFP, we'll talk about how the teams are ranked, but I think just to pick the 12 teams that are getting in, I think the wins matter, but more importantly, the losses matter. And what I
Yeah.
mean by that is to who and in what caliber. Because honestly, if Alabama was a three-loss team, let's say, but they lost to Georgia, to Tennessee, and another top
Take Texas, for
15,
example.
Texas, yeah, like a top team, right? Um, by one score games in each game. Like I think that matters. I think we look back to when Bryce Young was in his last year in Alabama and they had two losses, right? But I thought they were more deserving to make, the CFP that year. Um, than who shoot, I can't even remember because it wasn't Florida State. Um,
Florida State was last year. Florida
yeah,
State
that
did
was
not
last.
make the playoff this year. Shucks.
Yeah, I think they were doomed two games in. But I can't remember, but I just remember thinking that Alabama deserved to be in because they had two tough losses to really good teams. But they didn't end up making it. So similarly, I would have thought even if Alabama had three, losses, right? If they were to high quality teams that are also in the playoff, okay, I could see it. But I think the Oklahoma one killed them. Uh, I thought after the Georgia game, right, that exciting one with Ryan Williams, that they were a lock, but they kind of just fell apart after that one. Um, Losing to Vanderbilt and Oklahoma, I think ended up hurting their chance. Vandy, ended up pretty, decent. Um, they were okay, right? But same with Oklahoma, like they're two middle of the pack schools. They weren't bottom tier schools, but
Yeah.
to lose to two teams that aren't even in the top 25, um, yeah, I think that sunk them. So, like you said, I agree with the committee. They got that right. Um, but I was listening to this earlier from I think it was Joe Platt was saying how it's interesting that the seedings are kind of based off of the committee. And I didn't even really realize this, Matt, but if you look at the CFP now that it's been decided, um, so we have Oregon, right, at number one. And it kind of sucks for how it worked out for them, essentially, right? Because now, if we're looking at it, they're gonna have to play the winner of Ohio State and Tennessee. Ooh, like that's tough. Um, for them to be able to go through that gauntlet. Um, and then, assuming if they get past that, they'd have to, play Arizona State or Texas. What, that's I'm just assuming it's going to be Texas, but with how Texas has looked against, ranked opponents, we don't know that. But I just think for them to have to play Ohio State or Tennessee in round one, like I kind of agree with what Joe Klatt was saying. I thought the whole point of this system, and finishing number one, you should have theoretically the easiest path to get to the CFP because you perform in the regular season, you get the bye, and you get to play, a team that's kind of lower ranked. And to
That's why I
me,
think they're going to change it.
yeah,
It's like
I think they
I
have
think
to.
like the NFL. It's going to be like the NFL. If you're the lowest seed, you can move on. You got to play the highest seed left in the field.
It's not just going to be this bracket style.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it has to be that. I think it has to be that way. Um, 'Cause it's not fair. I think they'd much rather play an SMU or Penn State who they just beat, right? Or they'd much rather play like an Indiana or Notre Dame that, probably don't scare them as much as a Tennessee or Ohio State, which is probably going to be the best game of the first weekend, right? So
I think
a little
so.
bit tough for Oregon there, but why don't we get to just a quick predictions, Matt? Um, we'll do first round and then kind of project our brackets out from there. So we'll run through each game first. Clemson at Texas. Who do you got?
I'll probably pick Texas, even though I'm not really confident in how they're playing, but they're at home, so I'll give them the benefit of the doubt.
I'm kind of back and forth between this one, honestly, Matt. Um, Weirdly, and I like Quinn Ewers, but I think Arch Manning is gonna have to play some of the game if Texas is gonna want to win. Because I just it's been too many times now where we've seen Quinn just come up a little bit short, even going back to last year, right? With a chance to win and just can't quite get it done. I think he's a good quarterback overall, but it might be a Tua and Jalen Hurts thing. Like something, maybe that's just what they need to do. And I think Clemson is hot right now. I think they cover, honestly. Would I think they're kind of sneaky, and the line is that I'm looking on ESPN is 11. I think it's gonna be a one score game, but I'll take Texas. But I think we're gonna need to see something different, and I think a little bit more of Arch. Like he makes plays with his feet, which is crazy to me. But might need to see a little bit of that. This next one is tough. On to the next one. Tennessee, Ohio State. I still think this is going to be one of the better games of the weekend, Matt, but who do you got for this one?
I'm picking Tennessee. I think Tennessee beats Ohio State. I think on paper, Ohio State might be, you could make the case, the most talented team in the country on paper. Like the weapons that they have at the skill positions is pretty unreal. They have a two-headed monster at running back. Receivers are good, Ibuka, and then Jeremiah Smith, the youngsters. So there's just so many weapons, but I think it's more of a mental thing. With how they lost to Michigan at home, Ryan Day has got to be the coach that's seat is burning the hottest right now. He loses this game at home, he is going to be fired. I don't even know if he'll make it to the post game speech. Like that's how much pressure is on this Ohio State team right now. I think that's a huge thing right now. And Tennessee, they've shown, I mean, they beat Alabama, who's still a quality team. I think this is probably going to be Nico's breakout kind of game. I mean, he has all the hype, all the tools to be this next great quarterback in the next couple of years in the NFL. Well, now it's your time to show it in Columbus, take down mighty Ohio State, and I think he's going to get it done. So I think Tennessee gets out of here. Close game, I think one score game, but I think Tennessee wins. That just the pressure from Ohio State is not good right now. I think it's almost like if it was flipped, I would pick Ohio State to win if they were on the road.
I'm gonna say I'm gonna take Ohio State. Um, like you said, I think Ryan Day that was a bad look with how all the shenanigans and the whatever happened at the end of the game against Michigan, and he's more or less kind of just being a bystander as players are getting into it and fighting. But I look at it as more so this from a player's perspective, Matt. Like our last time in our home stadium, we just got embarrassed by a Michigan team that's not going to go on to do anything this year, right? They'll be in a bowl game, but that's about it. If as a player, you know, it's great. You know, you respect your coach. You're gonna listen to your coach, but I'm pissed. I would be like fuming, and just the fact that I get one more chance to go out there, and it's not the big rivalry game, but it's the playoffs, and I get a chance to redeem myself or my team in front of our fans one more time. Like, I think that is going to be the motivation that's driving these Ohio State players, right? Because your coach can fire you up or hype you up, do whatever that you want, right? But it's going to come down to how are you preparing? How are you getting ready for the game? Um, and I just think that like you said, too much talent and a little bit opposite. I think I like Nico. I just think he's really raw still. Um, and I think it's going to be a tough environment to go into Columbus and expect him to just ball out right away in that home stadium. Who knows? Maybe, he proved me wrong, but I'm just going to take that hunger and anger. I'll just be straight up anger. Like if you can funnel that as an Ohio State player, um, I think that's going to be the thing that is going to fuel them for this game, and that's why I think they win against Tennessee. So yeah, it wasn't a good look for Ryan Day, but I just think, oh, I'd be so mad if I was a player. They plant the flag on your home turf against your biggest rival, but you have one more chance at showing your home fans some redemption. I would take that every single time. So that's why I think I'm going to take Michigan. I mean, sorry, I'm going to take Ohio State. Um, and then moving on, I think this would be a good one too, actually. SMU and Penn State, two teams where we might not put them on that top elite level of, the college football scene, but two really quality teams, Matt. I'm kind of in between on this one. I've seen more Penn State than I've seen SMU. So what is your take on this one?
Ooh, this is a tough one. Um, I'm probably gonna lean Penn State. One, Happy Valley is just one of the most hostile crowds to play at in college football. That is just a different beast, I think. So I think that plays a factor. And then watching Penn State this week, I wasn't a guy that was really sold on Drew Allar. But for him to, in a sense, he kind of went toe for toe with Dylan. I think Dylan outplayed him, but Allar, he was keeping up. The run game was good. I think they were running the ball against Oregon, gashing them. Granted, that's kind of their weakness sometimes, but they made plays. I think Abdul Carter, I guess young Micah Parsons, you could say, number 11 on Penn State, kind of the same position. He's a force to be reckoned with. So I've seen more Penn State, so it's more of a biased pick. But Drew Allar kind of getting hot in that Big Ten championship game. I think that goes a long way to Penn State's favor. So I think Penn State gets out of this one in a close game.
Yeah, I'm kind of back and forth between this one, Matt. You know what? I think I'm gonna just have to take Penn State as well, but only because they're at home. I think if they were at a neutral field, I would have taken SMU,
Mm-hmm.
but I think the home crowd is gonna matter. Um, and I just think Penn State has a little bit tougher strength of schedule, and I think that does matter. Who you play. So I I'm a little bit opposite. I just don't trust Drew Aller, honestly, um, in a close game. But they played Ohio State tough. They played Oregon tough. Like those are the two top teams in the country. I know SMU has some quality wins too, but I'm gonna just because they're at home, I'm gonna favor Penn State there. Um, I think it'll be good. And then next one, Indiana at Notre Dame. Matt, Who are you taking in this one?
That's all fun. I think similar kind of teams with similar resumes, I think. But I'll lean to Notre Dame. I think this actually is a pretty tough one,
Yeah,
honestly. But I'm gonna lean Notre Dame. I think they've been playing pretty well, really throughout the whole season. They had that one really bad loss to Northern Illinois earlier in the season at home. So I think that left a sour taste in their mouth. But when you lose early, it's a lot better because at least you got time to kind of heal that wound a little bit. And ever since then, they've been playing great football. And they have an experienced quarterback, Riley Leonard, transferred from Duke. Um, so I like them coming out of this one against Indiana in a close game.
yeah, I agree. I haven't really watched either of these two teams, so I'll just keep it short. But I'll take Notre Dame just because I think they have, like you said, veteran quarterback. Um, they're at home. I guess that's going to be my two things. If Indiana went on to, beat Ohio State, I think, or even stay with Ohio State, that would have been a different thing. But
Yeah.
they had the shot, um, came up really short, so that's why I'm gonna have to take Notre Dame. But like I said, I haven't really watched either of these two teams play, so I'm not gonna give too much insight. But that'll be our official predictions before. I mean, obviously, we'll know more as the CFP kicks off in
They got like 2 weeks.
about a week and a half, yeah, week and a half ish from now. Um, but it'll be fun to watch the first CFP and how it all plays out. Um, and then on another note, staying on college football, but I guess we can do our UH football recap on the season now. A little bit of news. I don't know if you talked about it last week, but Timmy Chang gets his
Yeah.
1 year extension. So I didn't really get to comment on it. But
Yeah.
now,
I
like,
said a little bit. So, I mean, have at
I'll
it.
just say, with all the talk that we were going through, right? With the AD getting let go, and it's just I don't know what was going. No one knows what's going on behind the scenes, but as soon as he's gone, interim AD gives Timmy his 1 year extension. I don't know if that had anything to do with it. Maybe he was due that anyway. Maybe there were discussions anyway, but it's official now, right? And takes him through the 2026 season, I believe, Matt. So he bought himself another year of an extension. Um, a little bit interesting, but I can see why UH was almost in a sense had to do it, right? Because you got to give him another shot, I think. You invested in him early. Like those first 2 years, we knew it was going to be rough. This was a year we were hoping to see the team take a leap. And at times it looked like they had regressed back to when they were at their worst. So just another like odd, weird, meh. It's a meh year, but we can't keep stacking these years. Like we want to see some progress, right? Like, and we need to see that by recruiting and winning. So hopefully, this next recruiting, because we didn't get to see a ton, I would say, out of this QB class that was fairly highly touted, right? Tagovailoa, Alejandro coming in. Didn't really get to see them use as much, but I will say I think that Alejandro game, I think it saved. I think that bought him a year extension because now if Micah is going to be confident in Timmy as his head coach and he wants to start and he wants to be a part of this UH team going forward, then I think why not stick with the same coach that you had? It was one game, but you broke franchise records or school records. Um, Freshman of the week, your first week of starting. I think he was the freshman of the week in the entire nation, by the way. So I mean, 400 plus, 450 plus yards, I should say, 5 tuds. Yeah, that'll do it, I think. So, um, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how everything kind of plays out next year. But you want to talk about hot seat, Matt? It was warm this year. It's hot. Like it's official. It's no more. The culture is built. You turned it around after the Todd Graham era, right? I'll give you that, Timmy. Players have bought in, but at a certain point, we know how UH fans are. Luckily, Ching Stadium only fits what 10,000, so you guys better sell that thing out every week anyway, right? But looking ahead to the future, numbers are going to matter now more than ever. And we keep going back to this, but I still think it's the NIL stuff, right? Like the NIL, it was always gonna hurt the smaller guys like us, and it was gonna help the big recruiters with big pockets. That's just how it was always gonna be. But the counter to that is if you can put up winning programs or produce NFL level talent, then yeah, okay, the top 5 stars are going to go to the big boys, but you can take a 4 star, you can take a 3 star and go, hey, look, we produce winning teams, right? We can get you exposure, we can get you coverage, and we can set you up for the next level. And that I think is going to have to be the selling point, not just at UH, but essentially all these other mid to lower level, lower market, teams. And that it falls on Timmy. Like he's gonna have to recruit and he's gonna have to win. Like we need to be in bowl games, period. Right? Like I think if we go whatever 6-7 or six, 6-6, or are we even gonna have the 13 game next year?
I don't know. I
Or
think we might have
just
12.
if we're
I'm
sitting
gonna
at
say
12,
12. So
then
6-6 is
okay,
a
six
bowl
and
game.
six. I'll even take 6-6, but I think that we need to start making bowl games annually again. Like that has to be the bare minimum line. Playing in our conference, playing potentially 2 FCS schools. Like we need to be able to win 4 games at the FBS level. So I just think that that's kind of a given, and it really is gonna. I think it's gonna affect the future longevity of UH football. Like people take it for granted, but there's a very real possibility that if things go absolutely terribly, right, between the AD or, the funding and the boosters that are going to pull, we don't know what's going on. It's still fresh, but there's a very real possibility we lose a football team. Like that's possible. And I don't know if people quite understand that, but I think it's definitely a possibility that if we're bottom or we can't generate the revenue that we need, the program's cooked. So we need like either we need unwavering support from you know our local fans, and we've seen traditionally that's a little bit hard to come by. Like we got to figure something out, and winning, getting us on national TV, getting us endorsements and sponsorships and all this stuff, navigating NIL is going to matter. So we really gotta like, unfortunately, we gotta win now. Like that's just how it is, I think. Of course, this is just coming from my perspective, but yeah, I think hot seat for Timmy next year. Um, but it's hot. But what are we gonna do? Like we can't just if we fire him, we have to start from ground zero. So he's essentially in a pretty good position, I think. Like I say hot seat as a fan, but realistically, we fire him, then what? Like he was the local boy, a UH alum, savior that was gonna revive local, UH football pride. And to a certain extent, yeah, but it's hard to say because we're not on that same scale. I don't know, man. We're UH is in a tough spot for football, but I think winning helps solve a lot of these different problems. So
Yep, I think so. And speaking of winning, like this year, in a sense, was why it was so deflating. And yeah, it's so obvious, right? You win, you're happy, but it's more of the way that they kind of gave away games. It's like they easily could have been a bowl game team. Could have been playing in the Hawaii Bowl at a minimum. And I go
UCLA.
UCLA. That was the start of it. It's like you got your senior quarterback. Like you got to put up more than 13 points. I mean, at home. And look at how UCLA looked
UCLA
this
was
year. They look
looked
terrible.
bad.
They're still terrible. Like they don't look good. San Diego State on the road. It's like we
That was a
mismanaged the
killer.
clock. And then the one to finish the season in a sense, but when we actually have a little bit of hope, we play UNLV pretty tough, and we go on the road to Utah State. We're favored.
Oh, that was the
We're favored by 2.5, and you get absolutely boat rushed, lose by over 40. Like that is just, I don't think I've ever seen something like that where a team is favored and you lose by 40 plus. And the way that, I mean, Shager looked terrible. The defense lost its magic for a day. Like it was just, that's
yeah, the
three
defense that I
games.
played pretty well the whole year. And just
That's at least 3 games you could say, yeah, if we play better, we should win those games. And all we needed was one more game. The last game of the season, Alejandro balls out. That's our 5th win. Hawaii's 6-6, 6-7 with however many teams there are. They might have a shot to make a bowl game. So it's just like, yeah, like just giving away these key games. And to your point, what do you do when you make a bowl game? Every single bowl game, no matter it's the Hawaii Bowl or the national championship game, it's on national TV, which means people watch. People can watch you. People can see how this
especially,
program.
yep,
That's a
I agree.
recruiting. That's a recruiting tactic. Like nobody's gonna stay up late and watch Hawaii
No
football
one watches us
on the
at
East
home.
Coast.
Only
Yeah,
the betting degenerates. Like,
yeah. But if you're in a bowl game, you got that spotlight slot to yourself on ESPN or CBS, whatever the main channel is, at like prime time. Like the country is going to be awake enough to turn on the TV and say, "Oh, Hawaii's on TV. Oh, they look pretty good. We should, for a recruit, oh, maybe I want to play there. This young quarterback, Alejandro, oh, he can sling it. Looks pretty good." Just simple things like that. It's a recruit that you can steal here and there just from getting exposure. So the importance of getting bowl games is important. It's really important. And
yeah,
we gave it away this year. We really did. So,
with that. Yeah,
yeah.
and I don't want to get too ahead of myself here, but we need to see that clock management next year
Yep.
improve. Like,
Yep.
it's been 3 years now. I can't be screaming from the at the TV or in person if I go like, what are we doing? I hate like, what are we doing? That's the worst thing. You know, I think the penalties, the pre-snap penalties and clock management have to be better.
Yep.
Whatever it is, those have to be better. Like, period. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
how else to say it. Getting ahead of myself. Can save that before, next year. But yeah, I really am gonna hold steadfast in that. Um, but yeah, that'll be good for football, Matt. Do you want to talk a little bit about UH basketball though?
Yeah, real quick, but I did give a pause on my UH basketball take, and I said, let me see how they play on the road. Let me wait to see, and then I'll give my real assessment of this team. Well, they had their 2 road games, I guess, before the Diamond Head Classic, one of them being a conference game. They lose both of them. Shocker to nobody, honestly. The Grand Canyon one, they were getting killed. They came back in the end, so I'll give them credit for that. But the Long Beach game, man, oh my goodness. Like Long Beach is not very good. 2 wins. They beat San Jose State. Or San Jose State, sorry. San Jose State beat Long Beach State by double digits. Hawaii beat San Jose State in the Rainbow Classic. That was like, okay, yeah, if San Jose State can beat them, we should be able to beat them no problem. And I was pretty wrong about that. Uh, our offense just doesn't look good. I think it starts with the guard play. Outside of Marcus Green, nobody can really create a shot offensively. I mean, now our captain got benched. Tom Beatty started off as the starting shooting guard and captain of the team. He has been now demoted to the bench. So it's like, I don't know what we're doing, guys. Like, I just think we don't have enough firepower to keep up with teams, and we're not equipped to play on the road. And this is a good test. We're playing Long Beach. This counts as a conference game. This is the one that you had to win. The Grand Canyon one is okay. First game on the road, we're probably going to lose to an NCAA tournament team. But the Long Beach one was just like, man,
Does it count as a
it's a
conference
conference.
game already?
Mm-hmm.
What?
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't
that's
know. They did
crazy.
something with the schedule. So there was this whole thing, but it's a conference game. So they're 0-1 in conference.
Oh, great.
So, I mean, I'm not looking too positive right now. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how far this team is going to go. Maybe their next test will be the Diamond Head Classic to see them play some decent competition. But the fact that you perform like that on the road is not an encouraging sign for me. So we shall see how it comes in the next month after the Diamond Head Classic. But they do have a game this Saturday, but I would expect them to win. It's like Texas Corpus Christi. So
Mhm.
never even heard of that school. So should be winning.
Okay. Yeah. I can't believe I count this conference. That sucks. Um, well, maybe I'll try to make it out to one of the games this year and then I can see for myself. But before we wrap it up, Matt, let's get to the biggest news of the weekend in
No.
baseball. I know your guy, Juan Soto, elects to go to New York on the other side of town. He goes to Queens, um, courtesy of the New York Mets and Mr. Cohen, who dropped a gigantic bag for Juan Soto. 15 years, $765 million. No deferred money, by the way. So we'll get into the contract stuff in a little bit, talk about the impact it's going to have for the New York Mets, for baseball, really. But just initial reactions, Matt. I know you were really hoping you'd get him back. Personally, I thought he was going to resign with the Yankees. I was teasing, oh, he might come to the Dodgers. Never thought it was realistic. But I really thought he was going to end up back in the pinstripes. Now he goes across town. What are your initial reactions to that?
My initial reactions, I was really devastated because I really thought he was coming back. I mean, everything was playing out kind of what I expected. It's going to be the Mets and the Yankees. They're just going to up their bid, and then Juan Soto is going to be happy and get a big contract and stay in the Bronx. Because I thought, from what I heard, the Yankees had the last word. That was specifically what his camp said. They want to meet with the Yankees last. That's the final meeting. And I thought that's perfect. That's where you want to be because that means he wants to be there. He's just gonna say, "Hey, this team offered me this. Just stay around this price, and I'll sign back." That's literally how I thought it was gonna be. I was wrong, but in some degree. But initially, I was like, "When was it? Yesterday. It was yesterday." So I was just devastated. And then the initial reaction is kind of sad. But the more maybe I watch MLB stuff and I listen to like Jeff Passan and the Yankee radio guys
Mm-hmm.
talk. Maybe a little bias for the Yankee guys, but just kind of letting it sit now. It's like initially it's probably gonna sting in the short term, probably. But I don't know. They got a point. I mean, Soto, I've seen it myself firsthand. He's not the greatest defender out there. Probably is going to be a DH as he gets older. We already have a guy like that on our team, Giancarlo Stanton. outfielder, pretty athletic guy. The body wears and tears as he gets older. Now he's a full-time DH. Where would we have space for Juan Soto if he shuts down body-wise in terms of quickness and stuff in 3 years? I don't know. We wouldn't have space. So in a way, it's like they're paying $765 million for a guy who's going to be a DH for the last 10 years of that contract. I don't know. Like, that might be something that it's like, ha, classic Mets, Maybe the Yankees will have the last laugh. But initially, I think it's going to sting. But I think going down the long road, few years from now, we'll look at as like, wow, maybe we kind of dodged a bullet. Not because Soto's a bad player. It's strictly a financial thing and a roster construction thing because the Yankees already have a full-time designated hitter. And we can't have two. I already said that. Like, I don't even want one on my team. So having two would just be, I don't know where you can play guys. And you're going to have liabilities on defense. So the good thing, now I can move Aaron Judge back to right field where he was awesome at. He can lock that position down. The Judge's chamber is back in his back. And then we can get a natural center fielder, whether that's Jason Dominguez taking the reins now, Cody Bellinger trade. I don't know. But there's at least more options now for roster flexibility. And I think for the Yankees' sake, this year it's like, okay, Soto was the prize guy. And I don't want the Yankees just to say, like, okay, we were going to spend $760 million on Soto. We got to spend all that on one or two guys. Like, no, that's not how we need to make this team better. I think you got to be smart. I think there's two guys that you can just throw the money at. Both happen to be pitchers. Both happen to be guys that we'll be talking at. So if we somehow land Max Fried, Corbin Burns, at least one, both would be, hey, I would be okay with that. I don't know. That might make this
Hey, we're not
team
out of it yet
better.
either. Just saying.
Yeah,
Put up
well,
you guys.
you guys got Snell. I mean, this Roki situation is just looking worse and worse by the day for everybody except the Dodgers. So it's like, okay, like you're gonna get him. So give us the other guys. So I'd say if it's gonna be those two guys, yeah, spend them the money. But I don't know about Pete Alonso. Definitely not Pete Alonso, just because it's like, oh well, the Mets stole our guy, so we're gonna steal their guy. Like, no, no, no. I don't think that's the way to go. Truthfully, I think it's like it's a plan. I think they can go all in on pitching. I'll be okay with that. But then let's wait till 2026 because there's a guy that's going to be a free agent, Kyle Tucker, a guy who's going to be 28, I think 28 or 29. He's going to get a big contract, but lefty, gold glover in the outfield, like that is pretty ideal. He can play left field for you with Judge in right field. You got Dominguez in center. That's a pretty solid outfield for the next 5 years or so. So I think the Yankees need to be smart, honestly. Like people still have to remember we're the defending AL champs. Like as much as yes, Juan Soto is a huge loss. He's been on my bad side, but Aaron Judge is still the man. He's still the guy, and Aaron Judge is going to be there. Garrett Cole, if he stays healthy, can be the best pitcher in baseball. So I still think we're okay, but I just don't want him to go crazy on these like position players. That's where it's like we're just going to be trapped. It's the pitching. You can never have enough pitching. That's my thing.
True.
The hitters got to be smart, I think. I think Christian Walker is probably the most realistic guy, but I also don't want them to sign Christian Walker because I want them to try to sign Murakami when he comes to the MLB. And if you sign Christian
Mm,
Walker, then you can't sign him. So I'm looking at like, let's get Murakami and Kyle Tucker in 2026. Let's load up on our pitching staff this year, get the Burns and Max Fried. Then, we can make some noise, I think. Either way, we'll make noise, but 2026, you get pitching this year, and then you get the bats next year. Then you're ready to make that one final push with Aaron Judge, I think.
mm, hmm Yeah. You know, initial reaction, first of all, I saw 765 for 15. Like, oh, well, he certainly got the money he was looking for. I think we've just seen with Soto throughout his career, like that's what he's going to be, in the market for, getting
Mm-hmm.
the bag. And I mean, kind of hard to fault a guy for wanting to set up his family for, generational wealth. It's kind of hard to knock him on that per se. Um, but I'll just say, looking at this now, immediately puts the Mets as one of the favorites, along with the Dodgers and the Padres, I think, as the favorites to win the World Series. Easily, hands down, improves their roster. They still have some holes to fill, I think, pitching wise, but
They got
shoot.
Clay Holmes,
Yeah. Well,
cardiac Clay.
I think that for them, they can compete now with the Dodgers, with the Padres, one, two, threes. I mean, you go Lindor, Soto, Vientos, who we saw, break out late last year. Shoot, that is probably up there with Shohei, Mookie, and Freddie, up there with whatever the Padres decide to end up rolling out with. It's going to have Tatis in there, right? So I think, I think it's a really good move for the Mets if they want to win right now. Soto's a hell of a player. I still think, truly, like the last guy I want to see in a clutch situation up at bat in the late innings. I would rather see literally any other player than Juan Soto. Like I'm talking Mookie, Freddie, Shohei, like all my guys. Then you can even go Judge. You can go
Oh, I'm taking.
Tatis. Okay, I'm just saying, Harper, one of the perennial clutch players. Like Juan Soto literally is the last guy I want to see out of everyone on this planet right now. So I'll give you that. But like you kind of mentioned, he was a Gold Glove finalist. I think more so for his arm than with his glove. But there have been a couple times where I've seen just through Yankee Twitter or whatever it is, questionable reads on some fly balls out there, questionable angles being taken. So he's not going to be the elite level stuff, right? But I think it's good for the Mets that they kind of shaken off that little brother, mentality. Like we can't get anyone. So good for them. But like you said, is this going to hurt them in the long run? We'll have to wait and see if they don't get any rings out of it. Well, I think that'll justify it. I think the ends are going to have to justify the means for the Mets. Um, the one thing I'll just say in comparison to the Shohei contract, right? Because that's a two talk. That's going to be the talk, right? The two highest paid guys, Shohei and Juan Soto. Yeah, okay, Shohei, historic MVP regular season, 50-50 club, yada, 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 World Series. Amazing. But you really have to factor in that when Shohei was healthy at the top of his game, his other side of the ball was a top 10 starting pitcher in the major leagues, right? Like he throws 100 plus. He's going to get his strikeouts. Um, he can go 6+ innings every start. ERA is going to be around 3, potentially lower. It's been under 3, I think, the past several years. So that's a whole other aspect that brings it in to justifying paying Shohei. Even if you only get the pitching for 4 or 5 years, right? You can get elite level stuff from a guy that is also going to hit 40 plus home runs for you on the flip side of the ball, that's got to be one of the greatest values, alone. Because you really put Shohei's two, the batter and the pitcher together, probably worth more than his $700 million contract. Honestly, like for what you would pay a guy like that, you could argue it's like a 400 and maybe a 350 something level like on each side. Um, but the thing with Soto, it's just so tough, right? Because we've seen throughout these playoffs that as great as one guy is, you literally need to have a team built around that. When it's not the pitcher, right, that can single-handedly shut down an entire roster, go in the game. Juan Soto can go 5 for 5 and you guys lose, right? So that's the only other thing I'll say on that note. Yeah, it's big, but for them to pay $765 million, we'll see if it handicaps them in the future. The last thing I wanted to say, comparing the Soto and the Shohei contract, we already saw how much money this year Shohei Ohtani brought in, revenue and advertisements for the Dodgers. Well, I think it was at like some ridiculous number. Let me see. I forgot what it was.
Let's just say after 1 year, and I went to the games, everybody has a Shohei shirt. It's like you would think this guy was there for 10 years. You would think he was Kershaw in a sense where he's a decorated Dodger for life. And he
Yeah,
kind of is after one season, which is kind of insane that everybody literally is walking around with Otani jerseys. You're sprinkling in a couple Mookie Betts jerseys, a Kershaw jersey, a Freddie Freeman jersey here and there, but 95% of the people in that Dodger Stadium that's cheering for the Dodgers has Otani, which is kind of crazy.
yeah. So they're saying the rough estimate is they helped Shohei being on the Dodgers help bring in around 100 to $120 million for the Dodgers alone. So you gotta think about that aspect too. Juan Soto, hell of a player, but no one has the marketing and brand that Shohei does. Not even Mike Trout, who's been the best player in baseball for you could argue whenever his prime ended for that 6 7 year stretch. No one was pulling numbers like Shohei. So Juan Soto's not going to do that. As big as he is in the Dominican Republic, like he doesn't have that global reach that Shohei has. So that's another thing you kind of got to factor in to this contract as well. So it'll be interesting. Like we said, still a lot more pieces to fall in uh, this offseason, especially with my Dodgers. We bring back Blake Trinan. I think I like the move, right? He's been a dominant guy in our pen, saw how big he was in our postseason. The Conforto signing, I liked it.
I forgot about that one.
If he's going to be able to be healthy, contact, hitter from the left side of the plate replaces that, what Jason Hayward was doing for a bulk of the year. And hopefully, we get that older Michael Conforto, bat back. 1 year deal. I don't hate it.
Is that an
So,
insurance just in case Teoscar doesn't come back?
well, they were looking for a left-handed outfield bat anyway now, but I mean, so far, I mean, Tommy Edman re-signed. I love that one, by the way. I think the thing that helped the Dodgers in this run was those utility guys, Tommy, Kike. We didn't have to play Chris Taylor as much, but versatile guys that you can kind of plug and play and still get production, be team player guys. Like Tommy Edman is a perfect. Everyone wants Tommy Edman on their team. He doesn't care if he hits second, if he hits fifth, or he hits last. He's
That's your
willing to bunt.
Drew Holiday.
That's literally, yeah, literally your Drew Holiday. You're right. That's a perfect analogy. Gold Glover at second base, can also play shortstop, can also play center field, hits from both sides of the plate, can hit for power, can hit for contact, is willing to bunt, is willing to steal. Like, what else are you gonna want out of, a player, essentially? So love that signing. The last guy I'm just waiting for is Teo. I don't know if we're gonna get Walker, but I would love to be able to get Walker dream scenario is we get Roki and Walker and
Okay.
Teo. There's no way we get all those guys. I know, I'm just saying, right? But realistically, if we can just somehow bring back Teoscar, I just think he was such a spark plug and such a clutch guy for this team all year. And you saw, how much the fans embraced him as well. I just think it would be such a big loss. I know he's probably going to he's probably going to play past his prime if he does re-sign with the Dodgers. But I think it's worth it. I think this is our window to be one of the first teams to repeat in a long time is still open. And I think you have to go after that. If you're Friedman, if you're Gomes, like, okay, I would take 1 to 2 more years of a prime Teo and the back half of his contract, we're willing to eat it. If we can somehow figure that out, I think that would be ideal just because of what he's brought to this clubhouse and to this fan base, honestly, helping us get a World Series, we won't say a real World Series, but that's the one name I'm looking at left. But we're still in the market for a lot of guys. Offseason is still fresh. We'll say the Adames one. That's a good move for the Giants. I think the one thing I am scared of is that they got Buster Posey up there, and Buster just knows how to win. So I'm a little bit worried that the Giants are going to start to creep up with San Diego as well. But should be expected. Like, we're the champs now. Everyone's going to have to do what they can to get to our level. That's just how it works in any sport, right? So we'll be interesting and keep monitoring the offseason. But yeah, the Soto signing, the first big domino to fall. Um, with that said, Matt, I think that was pretty good. I know it was a long pod, but I had a lot to talk about. Why don't we wrap it up here and we'll get to our quick hitters. So, our Jerry Jones this week.
I could have said the Cowboys. I mean, they definitely are on Sports Center for the wrong reasons, but to keep it fresh, let's go with the first time guy, Malik Williams. Probably no idea who that is for some of you. That's the UNLV starting quarterback. And he had some comments earlier in the week saying that he had no idea where Boise was. That was probably one of the stupidest things you could release to the media because you're playing Boise State in Boise for a championship game and a chance to go to the playoff. And not only do you lose, but you don't play well at all. So it's like, yeah, that's foolish, man. That's just foolish. So congrats, Malik Williams. You are the foolish, not the foolish fool. Jerry Jones Award winner this week.
Yeah, I agree. That's a tough look, Matt. Anytime you talk like that and then end up losing, it's pretty rough. But my tribute for the week, you know, haven't we've talked about them sparingly over the past 2 years, but I'm gonna show some love to our alma mater, UP women's basketball, who are currently undefeated, having another good year. Past 2 years, they've made it to the big dance. Haven't won just yet, but I'll just say I'm gonna make a vow to myself and be better about following Portland sports because I should be as a UP alum. So my bad for the past 4, 5, 4. What year is
They
it? 2024?
say 20,
Four-ish.
but 2025 already, basically. So
Okay. So 4 or 5 years. My fault. Teams. But I'll be better at monitoring some of our, alumni, doing my alumni duties, I should say, and actually following the team that I went to college at. So my bad. Skolits.
so we can
But
cut out
yeah,
UH. We got to talk about UP now.
might as well at this point, man. Like, I grew up with UH, but come on, we're pilot alums.
Pilots
Like,
till I die, right?
yeah, pilots till I die, exactly. So it's just tough they didn't have football. Like, we're not
Yeah.
soccer guys. I'm sorry. I love the soccer team. Like, you guys are great. Produce some great teams, make some deep runs. Just my fault. I'm not a soccer guy. All right. My bad. But basketball, I should be on it. So baseball, I probably should be on it too. So maybe this will be the year that start giving them some more love on the show. Anyway, Matt, that's my fan tribute. Undefeated. Keep it up, ladies. Hopefully, we're dancing again this year. But yeah, sports fact.
All right. Sports. Well, yeah, I guess we kind of talked about it, but you probably like this one. December 9th recording. Let's just go back to 1 year ago
Wow, was
in
that
the
a
off
year ago?
season. Yep. Shohei
Wow.
Ohtani signs a 10-year, $700 million contract with your Dodgers. And
Oh
we
yeah,
all know the history
yeah,
with
that was fun.
68 million a year being deferred, which needs to be investigated, but we'll leave that to another day.
Hey, when you're making that kind of money, in endorsements, you don't need.
Yeah, but the MLB needs to do something about that. That is absolutely ridiculous.
Okay, well, call it the Shohei rule and change it.
This you guys have like $1 billion in deferred money. What the heck is that?
What
Like,
can we say other than we sign guys that are here to win now, and they know they'll get paid later on? Like, you don't think it helps a Tommy Edman, a Mookie Betts, these guys that are on the Dodgers team? That gives, like when you're alongside Shohei, team they're going to start to follow you guys as well. So I think that does matter a little bit. So I'll leave it at that. But yeah, that was a good sports fact. I like that one. Good pull, Matt. It was a longer pod. I know. I just came back. Sorry, we had a lot to talk about, but yeah, as usual, we'll be back again next week. More football for me in the NFL than Matt, but he'll still be here to talk about stuff.
Moral support.
Um, yeah, for more support. But thanks, guys, for listening. As usual, have a good week. Stay safe, and we'll see you guys